Your underlying for this is the King of Pentacles. All right, and we'll see how this is playing out. Now, this is you. This is going to be the other person here. So Cancer, what you're bringing into the relationship is the Moon. What they are bringing in is the Six of Swords. All right. So just right off the bat here, if we're talking about, you know, a person that we're dealing with the King of Pentacles, right? This could be an earth sign that you're talking about here. It could be male or female, right? General reading here. So you guys know how I feel about that. But the way that I look at this, though, is that, you know, you or the other person here are needing to think practically. And I think it's that you are having a difficult time when it comes to this. Because if you're coming in with the Moon, there isn't a whole lot of clarity, not a lot of understanding. You may not be seeing things accurately when it comes to the relationship. And the other person's like, we need to move on from this shit. With the Six of Swords. Now, where you move into with the relationship, you are showing the Wheel of Fortune, they're showing the Five of Wands. This is not wanting to repeat something. You, though, may not be seeing how circumstances are going to get better, or you're not looking at it accurately. You may be thinking that things are going to get better. But then, you know, the other thing, though, too, with the Moon and the Six of Swords and the way that you come into this, there may be some things that this person is needing to move on from that is not very clear for you, you know, which may be making you feel a little bit different, but I still think that you're hopeful in terms of better circumstances. But with them showing the Five of Wands, it's like they're fighting it. They're fighting it, but it's only because there are some things that, you know, they're wanting to move on from, or they're wanting you to move on from, you know, which is possible here. But what that means later, you have the Fool. They're showing the Seven of Cups. Cancer. What? All right. Let me look at the outcome here. The Tower. Oh my God. The King of Wands and then the Nine of Cups. So these bottom three are going to be your total outcome. But I do look at where it is landing on each side. So with the Fool, let's go back to that. You are ready to go, right? Circumstances in this relationship can change. You know, they may be fighting against it and not seeing how that's possible because there's still some shit from the past that needs to be moved on from that you just aren't clear about, right? But moving down into this, it's like, let's go. Like, I have faith here. I have faith that, you know, things are going to change. Things are going to be different. But they're showing the Seven of Cups, which is like them looking at it and going, you know, maybe that's a possibility, right? But they're not being very clear on, you know, what to actually do here. So I do think that the King of Pentacles is accurate in terms of the overall for both of you and needing to look at things practically. Now, the Tower, that bothers me a little bit because for you, it's like everything that, you know, you thought was going to happen in this relationship, or everything that you felt, you know, especially kicking it off with the Moon, is just boom, gone, done, right? And then you have the King of Wands in the middle of this situation, but you do have the Nine of Cups coming out. So now again, with the King of Wands, you know, we could be talking about this person here. You know, I worry about follow through because of the Tower being there. Because the King of Wands, right? I mean, you know, definitely there's an attraction. This is somebody who's very passionate, right? But not really known for commitment. But are you okay with that? Are you, you know, changing the way that you thought the relationship was going to go because they're not really willing to change who they are? You know, which is what I kind of feel like here. But the thing is with the Nine of Cups, you know, this person's looking at it like, as long as you can deal with this and everything that you thought this was can go away, right, then everyone's happy. Everybody gets what they want. You know, but do you though? You know, and the thing is in terms of what they want, they sure the fuck don't know. All right, here's what I'm seeing on this. When we're talking about things collapsing away and everybody getting what they want, or, you know, somebody not being clear on what it is they want, first you're showing the King of Cups. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily you. I think that you're looking at this person as, You know, I thought you were there. I thought you were emotionally available, but no. Because they're showing the King of Swords, right? So thinking a little bit too much about things here, trying to use logic and reason when it comes to, well, you know, this is what you want, but this is actually what I want in terms of this. And they are having a hard time making a choice here with the Two of Swords when it comes to that Ace of Wands. For you, it's definitely there, because with you being the Fool, it's like, okay, right? Why not? Why not do this? Like, I'm not understanding, but it's not you, it's the other person and their bullshit that is making, you know, the choice difficult for them. It's like they would rather not recognize that. Now, with Judgment, you may be, you know, reviewing this entire situation because what you thought was, you know, going to happen as far as this relationship is collapsing, right? So you're forced to review it, to look at things here. They, I think, are looking at you as the Queen of Cups, being a little bit too emotional. And I hate putting it that way, but that's why there's difficulty in making a choice here when it comes to, you know, possibly starting over. You know, especially if you're accepting the fact that, you know, what you want is not exactly what they want in terms of the relationship. But if you're okay with it, everybody gets what they want. But I don't know that they're actually ready to make that choice because, you know, with the Queen of Cups, if that's how they're perceiving you, it's like you're just too emotional. You're too emotional, and that may be why they're kind of coming off as like the King of Swords, you know. Wow, Cancer. But, you know, like I said, with the King of Wands here, it's, to me, it has the feeling of dealing with somebody who, you know, may act like they know what they want, but it's almost like they're trying to make you okay with that, but you're not. Like with the Tower being there, it's like, no, because if you're having to go back and review this entire situation with the Tower being there, you know, is it really what you want? You know, but I don't think that they're wanting to make a choice when it comes to you. You know, especially with the Seven of Cups being there. This kind of like disagreement kicking this off. You know, and for you, it's like you come in not understanding what's happening in the first place, but it's not your fault. I feel like it does have to do with the other person. And then the King of Cups. Wowza. All right. And I am going to clarify this a second time. So starting this off, Judgment and the Empress. Now, when you're looking at Judgment with this deck, it's talking about clearing out stagnation. Okay. Now, some of you may be tempting a situation or tempting someone else, which is possible because you may feel like things are stagnant when it comes to your love life, right? That, or you're, you know, being tempted here, right? Empress, the temptress, you know. But moving out of that, you have the Six of Pentacles and Temperance. So here's kind of what I feel like with this. Some of you may feel like your love life is stagnant. You know, you may be looking to attract something new with the Empress here, but you're not exactly getting the attention that you're wanting, looking at the Six of Pentacles. But with Temperance, it's like, that's okay. I'm just going to stay chill, right? But the reason why you may not be attracting it here, though, you know, Temperance, the other thing it talks about here is like needing to build the passion, you know, but the passion I think is already building for you, possibly in terms of another person here. Now with the King of Cups, right? Water sign, another water sign, possibly. You know, I do think, though, that this is going to be, you know, what is surrounding you, though, you know, feeling romantic, right? The problem is the Two of Pentacles. This is embarrassment. This is feeling like shy or like skittish when it comes to approaching someone. And that may be because you're fearing already off the bat here that they're not going to notice you, or you may feel like they're not noticing you, but there's still like, you know, this like romance that's happening, you know, but if you're not feeling like you have the right to approach somebody, it would make sense that love yourself first is coming through. But so you maybe, I don't think that you're the one that's like domineering here when we're talking about the King of Pentacles. I feel like if anything that, you know, if you've been in relationships before, or if you're leaving one or whatever the case may be, I think that some of you may have been dealing with the King of Pentacles type, whether they're male or female here. You know, being a little bit overbearing, you know, there's not a whole lot going on, which is why, you know, some of you are like, all right, I'm blowing all that out now, and here I am, right? You're looking good, you're feeling good, especially if you're a female wanting to tempt something into your life or wanting to have that attraction come through, right? But I think you're also being tempted by somebody else. Now, with the Ten of Pentacles moving into the Six of Pentacles, right, you need to take a look at yourself, absolutely. One of the things that this one talks about is that your own reflection. You know, how do you see yourself in a relationship? How have you seen yourself in relationships before, right? If you're wanting to have an abundant relationship, you're going to have to take a look at yourself here, especially if you're trying to attract attention, for Christ's sakes, in the wrong way. And I say that because of the Empress, but then I also say that because of the Six of Pentacles, feeling like nobody is attracted to you, you're not getting what you want. Okay, now moving out of this, the Five of Pentacles. You may be moving into a situation here where there may be somebody around you that, you know, you're wanting to have like an old-fashioned relationship with. You know, this is romance for sure, right? But for some reason, some of you don't feel like you can approach this person. You know, there's like, I don't want to say like you feel like they're not in your league, because I see you seeing how the relationship could go with the Five of Pentacles, right? And that may be how it turns out if you get over, you know, trying to attract them in the wrong way, or get over this feeling of, you know, maybe I'm not their type, or maybe I'm not, you know, good enough, right? But overall here, the big thing is you got to have more self-respect for yourself, right? And that is what is going to attract that person to you. And you may end up with, you know, a really nice kind of romance happening here. So first of all, needing to heal and release, right? Forgiving and learning. In the past with the Lovers, absolutely, this could be about, you know, another person being involved, being tempted by another person. You know, and this is either you or, you know, the person you're in a relationship with. The problem is with the Two of Swords, you're like, I don't know. You know, I don't know. Given that that may have happened in the past where they were tempted and may have done something here. But I'm not looking at like the Tower. But I still think that there may have been a temptation. But somebody is not like really open to accepting a connection or an offer here. Now, moving into the Star and the Ten of Swords, you're definitely talking about a really, really painful ending, right? But you're still like reliving it here and trying to heal, you know, what has happened before. But some of you just may not be ready yet. The problem is where you move into future conditions here. With the Eight of Wands, you know, this is needing to savor the moment, right? Enjoying the moments that you have together, especially if you're trying to heal a relationship. But the problem is the Four of Cups would suggest that things just kind of go blah, right? This is routine in a relationship. You know, you may be trying to move past what has happened a little bit too quickly. You know what I mean? There still needs to be some serious healing when it comes to, you know, the pain that may be going on for some of you. You know, if you dealt with a separation because of some shit that happened in the past. Okay, so looking at the Hangman, clearly, you know, you've been kind of waiting on this, I feel like, waiting for them to kind of come back around to you. After, you know, possibly being tempted somewhere else, which is funny with the Empress showing up in the last one. But the Hangman, right? It's like you're bound to this person. It's being bound to each other, you know, but somebody may be kind of held up here. But, you know, I don't think that it's you. I think that you're doing this in response to them because of what they may have done or thought about doing. You know, because it almost feels like there was a choice there. There was a choice there between you and somebody else. You know, and again, right, this is for some of you, but they're the ones that are actually holding things up, but you're like returning that to them because you're not really ready to open up. The thing is, though, is, you know, with the Knight of Wands clarifying this, it's like you're boom, let's go, full of passion. I don't care. Let's just go, because you're bound to each other. You need to have that experience. It feels like that there's passion and everything else, you know, but that's not the right way to heal what has happened, because clearly it was extremely painful for you. And for some of you, you may be having a hard time letting it go, which is why you're being asked to forgive and learn. But the thing is that the apology comes after the fact, especially if you start to feel like blah. I think that, you know, things go a little bit too fast here. Some things have not actually been dealt with, which brings you into this place of boredom and, you know, just, yeah, we're just doing things, you know, it's whatever. Right? But then you have this apology coming through, right? Trying to apologize from the past and maybe realizing that, you know, the connection is more to them than just, you know, passion, right? Especially if a temptation didn't work out for them in the past. This would have been completely different had the Four of Cups not showed up with that. But, you know, it's up to you, right? You could forgive and let go. But for a lot of people, that's hard to do if there isn't like some acknowledgement on the other person's part that, hey, you fucked up, you know, like you need to acknowledge that, you know, there needs to be that apology before, you know, we can get out of this routine and this funk with the Four of Cups. You know, now traditionally, right, with the Four of Cups, you could be looking at this going, I don't know, which is where you were in the beginning in the first place, you know, but it's up to you. It's up to you.